Welcome to today's edition of Chamber Chat. I'm your host, Paul Bucciarelli, and today I'm pleased to have from Mohawk High School Superintendent Mike Leitera and Carl Sockaci. Welcome to Chamber Chat, and thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. Mike, I read where you became superintendent at Mohawk in 2015. Can you share some information with our audience today about your background and history at Mohawk?
Sure. I started teaching at Seneca Valley. I was there for about 10 years, and a position came up at Riverside, which is one of the connections that both Carl and I have, as he was a student there, and I came right after he graduated. And I was an assistant principal and then became principal at Riverside and moved on to South Butler County School District as assistant superintendent and then superintendent. About a year and a half into my term as superintendent at South Butler County, Mohawk came open, and I had often wanted to come back to this area. While I never left in terms of where I lived, I had not worked in the area for the better part of my career, almost 20 years at that point. So Mohawk came open. I felt like as a person that now had something to give back to the community, I wanted to come back to Mohawk. In 2015, I became superintendent there. And we recently found out that in the past 10 years, Mohawk went from 297th in the state in terms of school scores on the Pittsburgh Business Times chart to 166.
Oh, that's great.
So there's been some progress made academically, obviously some progress in all the facilities, but I think we're most proud of some of the programs we started most recently.
Well, Mike, we're thrilled that you decided to come back to the community. And Carl, do you want to add anything to Mike's introduction of yourself?
A little background on myself.
Sure.
I'm in year 17 of teaching technology education at Mohawk. Mohawk's the only place I've taught since I graduated college, although I substituted in a couple of places.
Okay.
Technology education, and then about 5 or 6 years ago, I went back and got a certification in VOAG, so vocational agriculture, which I help with our vocational classes out there as well.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks to both of you for your contributions to the community. So, Mike, I noticed on the Mohawk homepage that you talk about equipping your students with the skills that they need for the workforce of tomorrow. What do you mean by that? And what kind of skill sets would you be talking about?
Well, I think that's something that's always in flux. And the reason for that is our main goal, and I'll probably thank this organization several times. Both Carl and I have worked with the Elwood Group on several occasions, right, with their HR department, with various departments, even having teachers visit the floor. We can talk a little bit more about that later, but in all honesty, it's all been about creating a dialogue with the workforce and with the employers here. And that's really what needs to dictate what happens in the school. So what I think we've lacked as a school and what we've lacked as a profession in education is listening to the workforce developers, listening to the companies that employ students, and really trying to make our coursework fit what their needs are. Now that's a reciprocal thing.
Yes.
We need the companies to talk with us. And we found in the past few years, more and more companies willing to reach out to us, help us with coursework design.
Sure.
And I think we've both found a sense of humility on both sides to begin to work together better in a more fluid fashion, instead of just getting together once or twice a year.
Sure.
And, kind of lamenting the fact that we are not on the same page. So our programs have tried to focus more on where the economy is going, certainly in terms of manufacturing and industrial applications. We began our MERC program, which is Manufacturing Industry Ready Consortium.
Okay.
And that is something we originally wrote as a state grant, did not get awarded that grant, but fought hard to keep the spirit of that alive, which was that industry manufacturing relationship with the school district.
So, Mike, I know one of the challenges we face locally is trying to keep our local kids here after they graduate. Can you talk a little bit about how Mohawk is making some of that happen?
Yeah, I think we were alerted to the whole concept of brain drain versus brain gain from the business journal out of the Mahoning Valley, and trying to prioritize keeping students here, which is one of the number one reasons we think local job placement is so important.
Sure.
Students having an idea that not only can they have a life here, but there is gainful employment within the county.
Absolutely.
And also trying to make the county more of a hub for places for people to live, but also understand they can work outside of the county as well and still, maintain a residence here. So trying to keep students in the area, trying to have the appropriate coursework and really hook them up with jobs in the immediate vicinity is most important to the school. So the numbers don't, continue to decline, and we can keep our population in Lawrence County.
Right, if we can somehow impact in our kids what kind of quality of life you can have here if you get a decent job, it's a big plus for our county. What skill sets do you emphasize to your students, Carl? And do you have any guidance for people that are maybe relatively early in their career?
We try to start kids off thinking careers right in 9th grade with a lot of our classwork, and a lot of our coursework is set up to help build some of what the employers are looking for as far as soft skills in these kids. A lot of our grading and our hands-on classes and our project-based classes is based on our students' attendance. They're based on their promptness. They're based on meeting deadlines, and they're also based on, just their performance in a work-like environment.
I'm assuming accountability would be a part of that skill set as well.
Accountability is built into all the projects. The students are handed a grading rubric at the beginning of the project, so they know exactly how they'll be evaluated throughout. And all of our grading, whether it be in our skill-based classes such as welding, or our project-based classes in our metal shop and wood shop, those kids all know exactly where they stand throughout the process.
And I think just to further what Carl's saying in terms of general skill sets, trying to really teach students to problem solve and have the teachers become more facilitators in the room as opposed to the more rote memorization type activities. Just some of the coursework we started up with things like technical writing. And while that may seem like a simplistic or straightforward course, we know that there's a vast amount of ability to understand something to be able to actually put it on paper.
Sure.
So there's been a lot of work in terms of that technical writing course and how that's helped out our employers and for our teachers to think things different. And applications also exemplified by our course in math, where our teacher did visit the Elwood group and actually went on the floor of the plant to say what types of mathematics need to be learned for real world application. So I think some of the skill sets, obviously soft skills is something that we've all been trying to emphasize, but also more direct application skills.
Okay. So have you collaborated with any of the other county school districts on any of these projects?
Well, I think in terms of robotics, I know that each year we do a day where all the county schools get together. And that was a place where the superintendents really talked about how to have our best minds meet up.
Okay.
So all the county schools once a year meet on an in-service day. It was following a pattern that was established by Google, and they get together. So I know like our teachers of technology education, the teachers of robotics have got to meet and be able to talk like that. And that's been something that's been very good in terms of collaboration. I mean, the superintendent group talks about this every month when we meet.
Okay.
And I think we're starting to see some inroads, especially in the area of college and high school, working with some of the local community colleges, working with each other to promote the idea that, you may not be able to offer every college course. I may not be able to. We have to kind of break down these barriers of, hey, your schedule is 3 minutes different than mine.
Right.
You don't allow hoodies to be worn. Well, we have to kind of get out of that mindset.
Right.
And I really think we're on the cusp of doing a lot of shared services.
So sort of complementary rather than competing in some cases.
Absolutely. And people can still keep their sports teams, and we can still have shared services, which I think is a much more palatable model for most people.
So I know COVID must have impacted the schools a lot. How did the pandemic affect your protocols and processes at Mohawk?
I think from a teacher's point of view, there's certainly...
My classes were especially difficult because when you're running a hands-on, project-based, lab-based class, such as robotics, maybe welding, metal shop, small engine repair, you name the quote-unquote shop classes is what they would call it traditionally. Those are extremely difficult to teach in a virtual.
How do you do a lab virtually? Correct. Yeah.
We did the best we could. In a lot of instances, I put the onus on the kids to kind of give me feedback as far as what do you want to explore? What are things that you want to learn about? And we will explore them together through web searches, through videos, through, I had to set up a lot of Google Meets and chats with the kids, and it was tough. That was especially for our classes, because our classes, my type of classes, I mean, it's critical to be in there working with the machines, working with your hands, having that one-on-one with the instructor, and actually, do it taste it, smell it, be in the environment.
Sure.
And when you're taken out of that, you lose that entire element.
Well, hopefully the worst is past, and I know you guys have done a great job trying to accommodate learning during a pandemic. It's been a challenge across the country. So as we near the end, how do you measure success at Mohawk? Do you have any success stories that you can share as a result of some of these programs?
Yeah, I think the one that we talked a little bit previous, just in terms of, how do we measure success and what are the things that we value? Again, I think that's something that, while there's the scores, the accountability measures from the state, we're really trying to look at job placement and preparing students as our measure of success.
Okay.
So in our first year through the MERC program, we had 8 students interview with, again, Gracious, our partner was very gracious with us. The whole group came up, actually brought people from their HR department, did actual interviews with our students, and we're ready to hire 4 of them the day of the interviews. And we think that they probably would have taken 8 of the students through.
Oh, that's great.
And really, I don't know if there's a better success story than placing students directly into the workforce.
Absolutely.
I know one thing that we're trying to emphasize is, it seems like in this day and age, people either demonize going to college or not going to college.
Yes.
And we're really trying to make it a continuum at Mohawk. It has to fit the student, their skill set. They have to understand the decision they make now to go or not go to college isn't something that has to dictate the rest of their life. And as a professional, they're going to constantly evolve and do different things. So really just trying to make it a continuum and make it a welcoming environment for any student, so what their ultimate goal
And
is.
I guess you can always do both, right? In a virtual environment,
Absolutely.
you can go to work and you go to college as well. It just may take a little longer. Well, I want to thank both of you for agreeing to sit down with our Chamber Chat audience today. Obviously, you're passionate about your work. You have some great results at Mohawk. What do each of you like to do in your spare time? Anything you do when you have some downtime?
Downtime's hard to find for me. My wife and I both work full time. We have 3 kids, age 7 to 3, and we run a farm. We live on a 200-acre farm in Farm Bell, so we're pretty busy. So there's not really much downtime. That farm is my downtime.
No, it's the same for me. 2 people working full time, 3 kids that run around constantly. But if I'm usually at work, and honestly, I think that one thing that I would say about Mohawk is that we truly do enjoy our work, and it's not seen as a job as much as it's seen as like you said, a passion.
Absolutely.
It's a dedicated staff.
And it shows through in your efforts and what you've shared with us today. So thanks to both of you for sharing this information with our Chamber Chat audience. So look forward to seeing you again at our next Chamber Chat. Thanks for watching.